All right, let's talk about yesterday and the homework. So we're supposed to attach all the parts that need to be attached together. Hopefully you didn't have very many problems with that. I had a few little things on that. I mean, attaching things was pretty simple, but doing the annotations and stuff for that wasn't as simple. There were some things I had to do. So I showed you guys the shear block clips and how to change where they are attached to on the vertical. Luckily, we didn't have to do that on our door head because I put the tagline right at where I wanted it to be, and we had our offset for the door header. That's not it. We had this offset here for the angles at 0. So the attachment location for these angles was right exactly where the tagline was, which is what we wanted. But it was kind of, there was some work there to draw those attachments. So I'll just show you what I ended up with for this vertical here. So clip attachments and AP drawing stuff, those only show up on the fab ticket. So I'm just doing a preview fab ticket here. So this is kind of my completed fab for the door area. There are a few tips and tricks that I didn't mention. So I had this channel's the pocket filler. That one turned out fine. But this guy here, the door header clip, that's the wrong one, the right side one here. To do that, I put a dimension in here. You can see here, I put a dimensioning where the bottom of the angle was and then the top of the door header, because the location that I'm showing up here in the chart is this location where this datum symbol is. So I wanted to make sure that the shop had that dimension. But drawing that dimension, it has to go into model space, and there's some kind of weird tricks with that. So there it is. It looks all crazy in this view, but you don't have to try and figure that out. You can, oh, sorry, I should just leave that on. You can pop out into paper space, and here's the one that I'm actually working with here. I just drew this dimension right here in this viewport. So you can activate the viewports, the model space viewports from paper space. And then when you use one of our dimension commands off of the WW drafting ribbon, it'll automatically put it on a layer that only shows up in this view. So you won't see that dimension up here. I mean, you'll see it in this, actually, you'll see it in this interface, but once it draws the final fab, you can see it doesn't show it because this is automatically put on the dim 01 layer. This is the dim 01 layer is only visible in this viewport. The dim 03 layer is only visible in this viewport, and the dim 02 layer is only visible in this viewport that is off, that's in between those two. But it will choose the right layer if you're in the model space viewport and you're drawing the dimension. There's also another little bug, so I'm going to save that. So now if I redraw this fab template, or ticket, I should say, now it should have that extra dimension that I threw in there. But every once in a while, and I don't think it's going to happen here. See, it has that dimension, but it's not showing up here in this viewport. But every once in a while, this text on these will be really small. And I thought I fixed that in code, but I guess not because it happened to me. But what you have to do in that case is you have to actually open up this file. There's no right-click way to do it, so you have to just open up a browser, a file browser like this, and go to my training folder, So it's under Fabs Dies AP. And that one is the angle in model space, so it shouldn't have this paper space word. And I'm talking about the right side, so it's that one on the 5100. So I just opened this up, and what you need to do if these dimension texts are really small is you have to start the style command, and then under arch style, it would have a height that's incorrect. It would be like 1/8 of an inch or something like that. Just set it to 0 inches, like I did here. And then, so let's just mimic it so you can see what the problem looks like. This file gets created and it looks like, oops. It looks something like that, which obviously is not what you want. When this shows up on the ticket, you can't even read that thing. It's really small. So you just go into the AP drawing, type in style, go to the arch style, change that height to 0, apply and close, and then it won't update your dimensions immediately, but you can force AutoCAD to redraw these dimensions by activating the grips. And the one on the text, there's an option to reset text position. That will just that would reset the text so that it's in the default position. But if it's already in the default position, it'll just kind of stay there. But it will also tell AutoCAD I need to recreate the graphics for this dimension, and it fixes it with that new text style height, like that. Then this thing is fine. Then you save it, and when you redraw the ticket again, it will be the correct heights. So that's a bug. I thought I fixed it already, but I guess I haven't. I don't know if any of you ran into that, but just in case you did, there you go. The other things that I added to this, I have a dimension here, but this one's in paper space, and there's never any problem with paper space dimensions. This only happens with model space dimensions. So, and luckily model space dimensions are pretty rare, so you don't have to go through that all the time. What else do we have on this thing? I did most of them during the class. This one here, which is the back interior trim of the corner, that one should also be attached. I didn't mention that in the class, but yeah, that one should be attached. Usually we attach things that can be attached. Pretty much anything that can be attached and doesn't interfere with installation, you should attach it. So that's what I did there. And then all these fillers, like this one here, they're attached as well. These use A parts with an S, so they appear in the Fab template. And I think the Fab template that came from the server already had this rectangle indicating where that filler is. It already had the dimension there too. It doesn't quite line up with mine, but you can't see this once it's hidden, so I didn't really care to try and change it. And this leader was already there, so I didn't have to do anything. I just had to click on it to make sure that it was attaching together. And then the mark number should appear there on the ticket. And then that was just about it. There wasn't too much on this. The hardest thing was that door header clip. Any questions about that before we move on? All right. So today we're going to go over Autocut. So we've been ignoring this corner because we haven't gone over Autocut yet, but now we're going to fix this stuff. So Autocut is a setting that makes the Takeoff program automatically do miter and tilt cuts on your parts based on the geometry that it sees in the taglines. So in order for Autocut to work, you have to have the Autocut checkbox marked off in the UD window. So by default, Here's the AutoCut checkbox. It's usually on for everything. So usually it's more of a, I want to opt out of AutoCut and I'll uncheck this box, which is something I might do on the shear block clips or other short parts, or maybe even angles, because I don't necessarily want to miter those. It's just easier to straight cut them and leave them short. So you can control AutoCut with that box, turn it either on or off. If you're trying to AutoCut something on a horizontal tagline, that tagline has to have either a Vert, Jamb, Crnr, or Splice taglines on either side of it. It has to be on each end. You can't AutoCut something if there's only one, on one end there is that kind of tag. There has to be on both ends, or it won't do either end. For vertical taglines, there has to either be a can or HS or MS in the name of the tags that are at the top or at the bottom. So that's one of the reasons why we left the SilCan and HeadCan taglines here. There's the SilCan tagline. We left that there because if we wanted to tilt cut the verticals, we could do it with this line. But obviously, if there's no need to miter it, then you don't actually need that line. The other names in that list, HS and MS, those are Fremont's names for hard splice and moving splice. So in this elevation here, where we split these verticals, we would have another tagline here that ran across here saying what kind of splice that was, so that that would drive rules, which we're also going to talk about today. But it could also drive like a miter cut or a tilt cut or something like that as well. That was just one of our standard tag names. And then also the two taglines that we're talking about, the cutting taglines, which are the ones on the ends, and the main tagline, both of them have to be on the same elevation. So that's kind of obvious, but sometimes that gets missed. If you copy cutting taglines from one elevation to another, you forget to change the elevation number, and then you wonder why AutoCut isn't working. It's because they're not on the same elevation. Right, so we're gonna try this on this corner, and I'll just demonstrate it just so we can see what happens. Right now, everything here is at 90 degrees to each other, but there's another value on each of the units, or each of the taglines, that says what the miter angles are of things that are hitting it on the left or the right. And this also exists on the horizontal taglines, and in which case it's not left and right really, it's top and bottom. So so in this case we have this vertical, this corner vertical, and we want it to cut all the stuff that's coming in and hitting it from the left side, cut it 45 degrees. And usually, even though we don't have anything on the right side here, we just put 45 there as well, just because. Okay, so edit your tagline like that, hit OK, and all the other requirements should already be happening for AutoCut. We have a horizontal tagline that's on elevation 2 with a tagline on each side. This one is has Vert in the name. This one has Crnr in the name. So we have both sides covered. And AutoCut is checked on the stuff inside of here. Everything is elevation 2. So everything should get cut on all of these horizontals because they all follow the same logic. So when I UPD this, I'm expecting to see the mark numbers of pretty much all of these parts to change, because now all of a sudden they're going to be all mitered at 45 degrees on the right side. The shear block clips also will change because they will probably get mitered, but we'll fix that. So UPD. And everything's different. And when I run the BIM model, I'm just going to run it on this area. So you can see that all my parts here are mitered now along that 45-degree angle. Also, if you look at the chart here, let's just look at a horizontal or a sill. It added an extra element to my fab number. No longer is this just fab 1, it's fab X001. If it's more than just 45 degrees, then you'll get all these other numbers for every sort of miter and tilt angle combination you have on your parts. You'll get a different number here. But you could basically ignore that, what that is precisely. That just means it's a different fab template. And we'll open up that fab template, and you'll see that it automatically took my original fab template, which was fab 1, and it added this miter angle to it and this 45 degrees. It doesn't really know about all these other things that are happening, like my notes, so you may have to edit those manually. But this is its own file. This is the X001 template. X001 will always be a 45 degree on the right side on a horizontal part that's not flipped over. That was a mouthful. But you'll notice that it also mitered this thing, which is probably not necessary. That's just extra work for the shop. We had Autocut on that part, so it got mitered too. On the horizontals, it mitered everything. My shear block clips also got mitered, so I get these weird looking shear block clips like this guy. So pretty much everything, even if it's nowhere near this corner piece, everything that was on that tagline is getting cut at a 45 degree angle on the right side of it, even the fixed length parts from way over here. So let's just go over this list real fast. So when you're using Autocut, your Autocut parts have an automatically generated component added to their fab number. It's always X and then some numbers. The fab template is created during QBIM, and it has the miter and tilt angles already dimensioned and visible. If there's a compound miter involved, it will write down on your fab template the blade miter and the blade tilt, which is what the guy at the table saw would need to know to cut that particular compound miter. We'll go over drawing the dim A notes. And the length of the part is based off of more than just the adjustments. So what we've done so far, all the straight cut parts that we've been dealing with, we've been dragging them in the BIM model to set the adjustment, adjust top, adjust bottom, and then also we entered in fixed values for the fixed length parts. Autocut parts use these too, but they also use the layout. So how far front and back this part is will help determine its length, and also the overall width and height of this part as seen in the Takeoff program. So if you go to the Takeoff program, die info, it should have every part that you've ever UPD'd into the database listed here. Here's my sill member, and it says that the overall width and height are 7.33 inches and 2.5 inches. That comes directly off of the server, and sometimes the server doesn't have the correct values, or they might be flip-flopped, or they might just not be there at all. They might be zeros, like all these break shapes are all zeros. So you might have to enter these in for Autocut to behave like it's supposed to and get the right length for everything. I don't see any part. This part, we're not mitering this part. We're not mitering that part. These are all fixed length. These are on a different elevation, so I actually don't have to enter in any of these. But I would open up the part drawing for this thing, and then measure its width and its height, and then put it in here, and that will tell the Takeoff program how big it is, so it knows how long to make that part, so that you get this nice everything mitered at the same place, same plane that we have here. It usually it's on inside corners. that people find out that their lengths are being all weird. And that's because usually it's because that OA width and OA height aren't filled in. All right. So we have a bunch of problems with this, so we'll fix them together. Let's start with the fact that this tagline is the same as this tagline. So anything we do to this guy is going to affect the tagline over here as well, and everywhere else that I have a horizontal or a sill or a head. So that's not good. So if I decided to make this straight cut and maybe make it shorter, or say get rid of this shear block clip and use an alternative, I'm going to be getting rid of these shear block clips as well, because they're all the same use here in the UD window. If I change this horizontal, it affects all the horizontals. So I need a way I can copy this, and then I could change these taglines manually to be something that says that it has a corner on its right. That would do it, but we're going to go over rules to make this all come together. So we're going to bounce back and forth between these two because it kind of you kind of need rules to finish this up, and Autocut's just in the mix as well. So with rules, you put these into the UD window, and it basically automatically renames your taglines depending on which taglines are next to them. So most of the time you use rules with horizontals, but you can use it with verticals as well. This is sort of the classic best case of doing it, where we're going to set up a rule so that whenever a horizontal is running between a vert and a corner, do something different than when it's running from just vertical to vertical or jamb to vertical. So let's put that in the UD window. I'm going to close this because I don't need that. And we'll do it with just the horizontals for now. So I got here the horizontal, and over here on the far upper right is where you would put your rules. You can type in here, this is whatever tagline it sees on the left or the top, and this is whatever taglines to the right and to the bottom. So on the left, I want a rule that says if it's, well, pretty much, yeah, if it's vert star, you don't have to actually type that star. If it's vert on the left and a corner, which I put as CRNR on the right, I want you to, instead of using the data under horizontal, I want you to use the data under horizontal R, I guess. Okay, and then I'll copy, let me hit apply. Then I'll copy this. Copy, paste. And I'll call this horizontal R. And I don't need the rule on the second one. I only need it on that first one. So basically, if I have a tagline named horizontal, before it decides to use all these parts in here, it's going to try and process these rules. And if it finds a match, which it will, at least at the corner it'll find vert to corner, it's going to switch the use and use the parts under horizontal R instead, which right now is exactly the same because I copied it, but won't be for long. So let's take horizontal R, and let's remove the right shear block clip because we definitely don't want that there. And then on the left, we want this shear block clip, but we don't want it to be mitered. So I'm just going to turn off Autocut. This horizontal filler, I also don't want that to be Autocut, because this, oh wait, yeah, I do want that Autocut. This is a horizontal. If this was a sill, I probably wouldn't want it Autocut. Pressure bar being mitered seems like a waste of time. It's not really visible, so I'm going to turn that one off as well. The cap, we need to have it mitered so that they come together nicely at the corner. So I just set it up like that. That seems okay. Hit apply. And now let's see what I get. So I'm expecting all these horizontals have the same name. They're all called horizontal. See there, but these ones where the rule actually applies, the vert to corner rule that I've made, they're going to use different data than the rest of them. So UPD. And then I'll QBIM so you can see it. And I'm not going to run this still in the head just because it'll be clearer with just the horizontals. All right. So now you can see here I'm using the horizontal. It still has its 2 shear block clips. Over here, I'm using horizontal R, which only has a shear block clip here, and there's no shear block clip on the right side anymore. Right? It's completely gone. Also, my pressure bar. This is my pressure bar. It's not mitered here because I turned off Autocut for this use. So it is using the correct thing. You can also see it over here if you turn on WW Tooltips. And I think I mistakenly mentioned that it was for the whole AutoCAD session. It is for just the drawing. My bad. If you turn it on and you mouse over the mark numbers of the horizontal, it says the use is horizontal R right there in the little pop-up. So over here, it'll say horizontal because this one didn't have a rule applying to it. This one says horizontal R because the rules end up leading this thing to horizontal R. Also, when you run the UD command, to bring up the project details, you can also, when you run the command, it asks you for a detail bubble or a tagline or a mark number. If you click on the tagline, actually, it will take you to the direct name of that tagline, which is horizontal. But if you run the UD command on the mark number, it will take you to the use that made that mark number after all the rules are applied. So, so usually if you're looking for a specific thing, like I want to know what made this mark number, you want to click on the mark number because that will be after all the rules. Whereas if you just click on the tagline, it'll take you to that tagline, but it's before the rules are applied. Does that kind of make sense? Hopefully it does. So what's next on this thing? So I got my BIM model.
Do the rules work in the old way of fabbing? So like I'm doing a project where I'm not using QBIM. Would the rules still work?
Yeah, rules still work. They were created before QBIM and all that stuff too.
All right.
Now, what's the advantage of using the rules as opposed to just defining that tagline as horizontal R?
You get to skip that step. So I didn't have to rename this tagline at all. I just kept it as horizontal. And the person who's doing the tagging doesn't need to know specific names of uses that you want to use in any place. They can just name these things very standardly: horizontal, sill, head, and they don't have to know exactly what you're going to be doing here in the back end to make that actually work. Now, rules don't solve every problem. They just solve the kind of most typical stuff like this. So there will be times, of course, where you're going to go in here and change the tag name manually to something, but this just keeps you from having to do that everywhere. And it doesn't take much to set it up, and it works on every elevation. So you just enter this in and have a copy, right? So it's pretty nice. And we're gonna tomorrow, I think, we're gonna also go over like the further evolution of rules where you don't even have to type these in. But that will be the next step. And that one doesn't work very well without QBIM. So this, with the basic rules, these work fine without QBIM. You'll have to make your own fab, but they should just work fine. I hope that answered your question. I hope I didn't ramble too much.
Yep.
Okay. that's one of the reasons also we only use rules on horizontals, is they can get pretty crazy. You could, I mean, if you try and write a rule for everything in your job, this list gets kind of ridiculous, and it slows down all your UPDs because it has to check every tagline for all of these various rules. So usually I only use it for typical stuff, and then for unique situations, I just make a tag name and rename the tagline. All right, so what else do we want to do here? Let's get all these things to be the right length. So we can do that the same way that we have been doing it. Even though they're mitered, you still get a grip on the part. You grab it the same way, it's at the base of the arrow. And one of the nice things about this is, it's not showing me because my UCS, but you don't have to drag it. You don't have to figure out where this point intersects this daylight. If I projected a line across there, all I have to do is click somewhere on that plane, and it knows that it has to drag it straight back to line up with that plane. Let me do that again with this piece. So I can just grab that, and then I can snap to anywhere on this daylight. Doesn't matter where. And it shrinks that up. I should just hide one set of these. So it looks like I fixed those. So I'm going to hide this stuff here. They're using the same tagline, so whatever I do here is going to work on the other one. My pressure bar, it's only going to be able to screw in over here where the actual horizontal is. Looks like the screws start, that's probably 3 inches. So this pressure bar also isn't visible. We looked at that earlier. So I can pull this back some number. I could pull it back there, but that's going to be some weird number. Let's just try 2 inches to start with. Oh, I need to line up my UCS. All right. Let's go that way, 2 inches. That might be fine. We know that wherever this hole is, it's going to hit this guy, so we should be good. I'm not too sure about letting this cantilever pass the pressure bar so far. Maybe 2 inches is a little too aggressive. I don't know. I'll just go with the 2 inches. And then I think there's a plug. They use like some kind of gasket plug thing to bridge from here to here when they do the installation. So I don't need to notch this thing around at all. I think that's pretty much all my lengths. We'll deal with the shear block clip in a second. So I changed my lengths, I save it, then I can close this, and the next time I run UPD in QBIM, it should be updated. Also over here, when I hit refresh, it should have the new numbers. So you can see that I got the pressure bar is 2 1/8. So it started out as 1/8, and I took it back an extra 2 inches. That's why that's 2 1/8. My horizontal member is 1 1/4, and that one's also 1 1/4. So if you're trying to type these numbers out, there's a special rule for Autocut parts that this adjustment is always the distance perpendicular to the miter cut. So so this is minus 1 1/4 because that corner mullion is 2 1/2 inches across, and half of that is 1 1/4, and that is a measurement straight across the detail. That's 552, I think. So here's that 2 1/2. My miter's this way. If my adjustment is 0, it basically means that the miter plane hits the dim point, i.e. where the end of the horizontal tagline is. And then that minus 1 1/2 doesn't go directly horizontally. It goes perpendicular to this miter plane, which would be like that. The reason it's often a better number to use. 1 1/4 is a lot. You don't even have to really do any sort of trig or any measurement in here to find out that that's 1 1/4. If you wanted like a 1/8 inch gap between these two, or a 1/16 inch gap between these two extended covers, you can just do a -1/32 on the adjustment on both sides, and it would be a 1/16 gap. It just works out a lot better. Segmented walls too, it works way better if it's perpendicular to the cut. But of course, you can just always drag it in the BIM model, and then you know exactly what you're going to get, unless there's some bug. Oh wait, I just UPD. Should have QBIM'd. QBIM. I'm just going to do these 2 horizontals. All right. So before I start doing all the fabs for this stuff, let's get this shear block in here. So does the detail show it? Nope. Is there a detail that shows it? It's not that one. So I'm looking for a detail with that shear block clip. I don't know if I'm going to find one. But we could do what's on the server. You could also just use the normal shear block clip and cut it at 45 degrees, but then you're going to it needs a different length. It might need steps in it because you need really long screws. I don't know. But there's another alternative. I'll just show you what that alternative is, and you guys can tell me if that's what you guys normally do. We'll do it whichever way you guys normally do it. But if I go to the standard library and go to T7547.001, so we have this part here. This is an extruded shear block clip. Part number, where the heck's the part number? T7542602. It has the length right there. It screws in with these screws into the side, and then it screws up into the horizontal with these raceways here, and also through the horizontal into it with this 13 AP in the front. I don't know if you guys use that, or if you use a break shape, or if you use just the standard 2600 that's modified heavily. What do you guys do normally?
Usually you see like a break shape. I haven't seen that particular shear block before, but you know, I definitely have seen a break shape in that spot.
Okay. Break shape's gonna be hard. Because I want to model it in the BIM model, and sometimes when you're doing break shapes in the BIM model, you feel like you're wasting a whole bunch of time.
I think using the one that you showed there was probably gonna be easier for the training purpose. You know.
Yeah.
It gets the idea across.
It's also, this is also really good. The break shapes, they have problems because they're not always bent in the right, exactly the right angle, and they're just harder for the shop to position. I think this worked out really well. They just make a little jig of the horizontal, a piece of horizontal, and they could place this down pretty good. So yeah, this is what we always use. This might actually be a good time for me to show you guys the standard library of data. So all the stuff that we put in this UD window, we entered in ourselves, right? We did layout ourselves, we did everything ourselves. There is a library with some of this data, especially for the tech wall like that. And you can get to that in AutoCAD by typing the ACAD parts command. It might be, it reads off of the SQL server. So if you guys are out there in Phoenix, I don't know how quickly this will pop up, but it should pop up eventually. And it has a list of all the standard data that we've made for most of this is Revit stuff, but if you look for these are all named after the detail library number. So this here, T754030001, is the standard horizontal. And if we wanted to, we could copy all this stuff into our database to use. What I'm looking for here is this Vert to Crnr. See how it already has these rules already made too? Has it has the layout already set up, has the shear block clips. They're already, apparently they're Aladyne. I think we made ours mill, my bad. It has pretty much everything set up for the most basic of conditions. This one, we want this horizontal 1R condition, and I could just copy the shear block clips out of it and use them for our stuff. And that will save me a whole bunch of time. And any fab number that you see here is also already in the Fabs folder on the server. So I should download these Fabs will come in automatically when I run QBIM with these parts. So all this stuff is already set up for you especially for the tech wall. For other things like Arcadia, they're not set up at all. There's nothing here. So those you'll have to worry about by hand. I'm gonna do this one just by copying because just to show you how awesome it is to have this data. Also because this shouldn't be you can do this from the stuff you already know from what we went over with the normal shear block clip, and this one you'll have to rotate around. So I don't need to show you all that stuff again. So I'm just gonna copy this. So I selected the 2 shear block clips. Oh, why is there 2 shear block clips? We'll talk about that in a second. Let me just get this over there. So I copied out of that window, and I'm going to paste them right here into horizontal R. So this is the shear block clip for the one on the left. That's why it has the parentheses L. These 2 shear block clips, they're both parenthesis R, right here and right here. So they're both going onto the corner piece. This is the basic one that's on the same side of the corner as the horizontal tagline, as the elevation we're looking at. But this one is, this OR code tells it to override the side. So instead of this clip being attached on the left side of the corner, it's going to be overridden to the right side of the corner. That's what this OR means. And then it also has a different fab number. Let me hit apply there. So I have 3 shear block clips on this one tag, 1 on the left and 2 on the right. And the 2 on the right go on opposite sides of the corner from each other. So I'm going to get a shear block clip here, and then the one on the other side. I need to add that. I need to have that other shear block clip in here because I don't have the horizontal coming in from elevation 3, right? This corner, I'm not actually going to add any. There's not an actual corner mullion there because that corner mullion I'm putting on this elevation. So, but there's shear block clips over here that need to be placed. And usually, almost always, they line up with the horizontals from this elevation. So I usually just add them to that tag, and that's why the data is like that. Does that kind of make sense? Hopefully. We'll see how it plays out. So UPD. Those things already had the clips and attached checkboxes, so they are already attached here, and QBIM. And it looks like my layout is a little bit off, so I'll slide those over, but I'm guessing it's because my tagline is going further than it used to or whatever on the server. It may not go all the way to the dim point like I have it in this job. So I have to move these over a little bit, but everything in here is pretty good, right? It's got the part in there. It's got the holes, all that stuff came in for me. The layout is mostly correct. It's definitely on the right, it's at the right height. You can see these are the two corner clips that I have highlighted here. They're at the right height to hit the horizontal. They're just not in the right position over here in this view. So let me move those over. Looks like I could just slide them over. If I slide this over, let's move this using, this might be a good opportunity for me to show you what we call up here the Romy technique, because one of our drafters, Romy, came up with it. It's pretty cool. I don't use it very much, but a lot of people use it all the time. You've got to make sure your UCS is lined up to whatever your view is. And then what Romy does is he draws, let's just draw a line first, because I want to just slide this over directly to the left. So I kind of want to make that point over here. He'll draw a dimension like that. And then he'll run the move command, grabbing those guys. He moves it from this point to this point. That way he knows that he's not moving it up and down in the z-axis at all. It's just moving in this XY plane. So that actually looks pretty good. Looks like the front of the thing is nestled right in the front of the horizontal, and it's bumped up against there, and it looks right on the vertical. I think that's the exact right spot. And then this one is just it's at the same height, so I think that's all we need to do there. Looks good. Save this. So after saving it, I should have an updated layout here for those two shear block clips that I moved around. And now I can UPD this for one last time. And QBIM should look exactly like I had it before. I just wanted to go back out and make sure that was all saved and looking correct, and looks pretty good. Ooh, oh, look at that. So the horizontals, they have a notch up here to go into the normal shear block clip. This fab, we haven't changed this fab at all, so it still has the same two notches. They have that left end one right here, and then we also have the right hand one, but the right hand one is completely off the part now because this here is the end of the part and it's mitered, so now this thing just doesn't work at all. But let's see, what can we do about that? We could probably go on ACAD parts and look at the standard data that we have, because this horizontal is very standard horizontal. Scroll down to T754 03001, and how you get that name, you can go through the standard detail library as well. So you can browse through this list of 754s, and you'll see that this one here, 03001, is very similar to the one that you guys are using, if not exactly the same. So I know that anything that involves this will be in the ACAD parts window under that name. Keep having to reset this thing. Need to fix that. All right, T754-03001. This is horizontal 1R, where we copy those corner shear block clips. But the main body is using fab 1R, so we probably want to use that same fab number, 1R. And that fab number will be on the server, and it should have this hole in the correct place. So I'll change for my horizontal R tagline, the 2100 part. I'll change the fab number to 1R, apply. Get out of here. UPD. QBIM. And now this thing, oh, hey, look at that. Apparently we notch it around there. I guess I was wrong about that gasket. Another good thing about having standard data is if you're using it, you're gonna avoid errors. So I'm guessing that this thing should be at 0. So let me grab that and drag it out to there. No, doesn't hit correctly, so I'll change the base point. I want this to be the base point, and I just want that to be a daylight. Like that. So this hole hits my Shear block clip perfectly. I guess I could probably move this out as well. UCS view. This could be here. As long as it doesn't hit the other one, it should be fine. Save that. Is that a horrible number? 3/16. Not bad. It's not 3/30. It's not 30 seconds, so I'm happy with that number. Could also look at ACAD parts to see what the server standard is for that, but that's fine. UPD one last time. QBIM, I hope it's the last time. You always think it's the last UPD, but it's never the last UPD. There's always more. Perfect. Let's look at the fab for this. So it got this fab off the server, has this notch in it, 4-inch dimension from the end for that hole. It's a different hole than the standard 5/8 one. Notice the fab number now is X001-1R. So we told it fab 1R, it added this X001 because of the autocut miter. So it will always be, for autocut stuff, it's always X some number, then dash your fab number, the one that you typed in. But if that fab number you typed in is fab 1, it just doesn't put that at all, and it's just the X number. Looks like this part also has this dim A. So what this dim A thing is our shop at least likes to double check the length of these miter parts by measuring along something nice. On a tech wall part, this cut size is a pretty nice number already, but they want another, it's easy to measure this because there's a flat surface on the front of this part. But our shop also wants a second one so that they can check that it's the right angle. So we usually give them what we call a dim A. So this dim A here relates back to this chart, which, if you remember, is set up using the aparts command. And the column label is dim A, and this dimension is subtracted from whatever the cut size is. So if this part is 60 inches long, it'll subtract, or it'll add this number, which, because it's negative, it's subtracting it from that cut size, and it will show that length here, which should be the same number as that dim A dimension at the top. So you can figure out that number pretty easily. You just draw a dimension over here. Or you can even look at this one. That might even be better. This is a third scale, so all the way across should be 30. And this thing here measures, where's the measurement? measurement's 213606. So 30 minus that is the number that they put in into the A parts table. So let's look at that real quick when we preview a fab ticket. So our part is 61 and 13/32. And then once you subtract that other number off of it, you get this number. This should be that, if I measure this also, it should be that 8 and some change dimension. .3694. So. All right. Any questions about that? That was kind of a lot. We went over Autocut, which is what gave us this miter in the first place. We also went over rules. The data on the server as well. It's expecting you to be using rules and Autocut, so they're kind of built into that data. You just kind of have to know where the taglines are supposed to be for that data, or you might have to alter some things like I did here. You can copy stuff out of there, make your life easier, especially for TechWall. Any questions about Autocut, rules, or anything else we went over today?
Nope.
Okay, I'm surprised. That was kind of a lot.
I think the questions will come more once we start actually, when you start doing it.
Start playing with it, yeah.
Start getting in it, because I mean, definitely some of the stuff, especially when you're going to the server and stuff, and obviously we're going to do the homework on that. We're going to have to review the video and go back through the steps as we're doing it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the stuff here on the server, I put most of it, especially for the TechWall. I think I put all the TechWall stuff on there a long time ago, like years ago. But right now we don't use this stuff anymore for the TechWall. And there's nothing here for Arcadia. If you guys develop your own set of standard data with standard fabs, you can send them to me and I can get them on here so you guys see them too. Right now we're using it for all of our Revit stuff, and the way we have Revit working uses the next feature I'm going to go over, which is called auto details. So they look even crazier over here. But yeah, we've kind of established kind of a process over here where we have one guy setting up data for pretty much every job that goes through the Takeoff and Fabs department. He's kind of looking over the jobs and picking some typical units, making data for them, all the data that is needed for all the different conditions on those typical areas, and getting those all on the server with their Fabs before the Takeoff person starts, so that they get all their stuff pretty much for free. And then the Fab person hopefully doesn't have very much to do or fix or add on, except for the weird stuff. So that's why this list is just insane right now. It's gotten really big because of Revit. But there's still stuff in here for non-Revit tagline stuff, like the TechWall. Anything that's just named after the standard detail library is probably fair game for you guys. It also has a miscellaneous already in here, which I haven't gone over at all because I don't like it. It's super tedious. But yeah, everything is in here for most of the typical TechWall situations. It's a very good resource. That's actually how I did my T clips and F clips on this practice job. I copied them over from there. I just didn't tell you guys. I cheated. I still had to make a new one though because you guys had a different hole size, but that's gonna happen. All right, so your homework is to try all this stuff out, use Autocut and Rules to set up the right side of elevation 2. I still have more work on this to do. I just did the horizontal. I still need to do the sill and the head. So, but I'm probably just going to copy those out of ACAD parts and make any changes that I need to do. And that's it for today. I think just looking into the future, tomorrow I'm going to go over auto details. And then Friday I might have to cancel. I'm not sure yet. Does this 2 o'clock time work for everyone?
Fine for me.
Yeah, it should be fine.
Okay. Yeah, I had to move it. Someone put or actually I had a meeting set up for today at the same time that our normal time was. And I didn't think that I wasn't sure if we were gonna go that long. I didn't know how many days we were gonna do this. So, but turns out we did do it enough days to overlap that thing, so I had to move everything over. But I have this one scheduled out till Monday. So we'll do tomorrow. On Friday, I might have to cancel, and then on Monday, I don't know about Friday yet. I'll let you guys know through email. And then on Monday, maybe there'll be more stuff on auto details, or maybe it'll just be a question and answer session where you guys can just ask me anything and I can show you whatever you want. But yeah, we're coming up on the end here. This is a home stretch. Once you get through Autocut and Rules, you'll be where Jovis and your other guys, they're all at that level. I believe they use. I don't know if they actually use rules, but I did teach them rules. I don't know if they used them. Auto details will be new to anyone in Arizona. So I think I did show them, but I don't think they were ready for it yet.
Yeah, we're not. That's the first time I saw rules. So I mean, I've seen it there, but I haven't seen the data really filled in for it.
They can get tricky. You can go crazy with them, or you can not go crazy with them. I'll show you auto details. That's where it gets really crazy. And we'll just see how well you guys like that. But basically, auto details makes all your rules for you, and it makes all your fab templates for you. So it's quite a time saver. It can be, but it also ups the complexity of everything by quite a bit. So that's why I wanted to put it last. And we also might talk about distributions. I know we talked about releases already when we did the metal takeoff and the metal order form, but sometimes distributions catches people too. But I don't think that's a whole class. I might just mention it or something at the beginning of tomorrow or something like that.
And that takes distributions. It takes about a couple minutes to talk about that. It's not.
Yeah, it's not that hard. It just needs to be mentioned, I think, because I still get questions about distributions. All right, guys. Cool. Have fun trying to figure all that out, and hopefully you'll be ready by tomorrow.
Exactly.
See you guys. Bye.